In this lesson, I will show you how you can use the zoom feature in Excel and how you can freeze rows and columns so that they remain steady while you scroll down or to the right. Let's start with zoom. Zoom works like a magnifying glass. You can use it to view your worksheet from a closer distance so that you can see some small detail, or you can use it to view your worksheet from further away so that you can have a view of the bigger picture of the worksheet. It's important to remember that when you use zoom on a worksheet, you are not changing its size. It's as though you are moving the worksheet closer or further away from your eyes. Let's put this into practice. Notice that the font size is 14. Remember this, as it will be important shortly. To change the zoom, I will go to the View tab, and here I will click on the Zoom tool. From this window, I can select a preset option or enter the percentage I want. For instance, I will select 75%, and by clicking OK, you now see the worksheet from a further distance, meaning you can see more data, but they appear smaller. I will go to the Home tab and notice that the font size remains 14, just as it was. It's as if someone has moved the worksheet away from your eyes, so now you see more information, but they appear smaller. I will open the View tab again, click on Zoom, and change it to 100% and click OK. Now you see that the worksheet is viewed from a closer distance. I will click on the Zoom tool again, choose 200%. And click OK. Now you see the worksheet from even closer, but you see fewer data. The larger the zoom, the better you see things, but the fewer data you see, and the other way around. In the zoom palette, there is the 100% button, so now I set the zoom to 100% directly. There's also the zoom to selection tool, but I need to select something so that you can understand what it does. I will select the cells from A1 to D5. Now I will click on the zoom to selection tool. Now the zoom is adjusted so that exactly those cells fit on my screen. That's a pretty big zoom, as you can see here on the bottom right of Excel. Let's see what will happen if I choose a larger number of cells. I will click on the 100% tool and now I will click to cell A1, scroll down, press Shift on the keyboard and click on F50 so that I can select all this area. I will now click on the zoom to selection tool again and see that the zoom has decreased to fit all the selected cells within the available space. Therefore, the zoom to selection can work both ways depending on the selected cells. Apart from the View tab, you can also set the zoom using the controls located down here on the status bar. I will move to the right from the indicator. This indicator shows the current zoom position, and I will click here once. Now I have set the zoom to a higher value. Now I will grab the indicator by clicking on it with the mouse, and I will drag it to the left, and as I drag, you see the zoom changing. I can also use the plus and minus buttons at the end on the both ends of this area. As I click the plus button, the zoom increases step by step, and as I click the minus button, it decreases again by step. Now I will click on the percentage, and this is the same window that opens from the zoom tools in the zoom palette, so I have direct access to this window just by clicking on the percentage of the zoom. One last thing about zoom you should know is that it is different for each worksheet. I will click cancel here and I will move to the Chicago worksheet. Notice that here the zoom is 100%. I will move back to the Boston worksheet, and this worksheet has its own zoom percentage. Now let's leave the zoom feature and talk about freezing rows and columns. I will first click the 100% tool to set the zoom to this percentage. And look what will happen next. I will scroll down with the mouse wheel, and as expected, the first rows are no longer visible. However, the first row contains the headers of this data list, and it would be very convenient if I could still see it no matter how far down I have scrolled. To do this, I can freeze the first row. So I will scroll all the way up so that the first row is visible. This is very important. And now in the View tab, I will open the Freeze Panes button, and here I will select the Freeze Top Row. Notice that the line appears at the bottom of the first row. I will scroll down now and see that the first row remains fixed. I think it's obvious why this is so handy. In this way I can see the headers here at the top, and I have no problem understanding what data is in each column. To unfreeze this row, I will open the Freeze Panes button again and select Unfreeze Panes. Notice that the line that was visible before is no longer visible, and when scrolling down with the mouse wheel, the first row is no longer fixed. Now that I have scrolled down and the first row is not visible anymore, I would like to highlight something. I mentioned earlier that the first row needs to be visible to freeze it. That is, if I am where I am now, somewhere below the first row, things will not work the same way. See what I mean? I will open the Freeze Panes button and choose Freeze Top Row just like I did before. The freeze occurred here on the row that was first at that time. I will try to scroll up with the mouse wheel, but you see it doesn't go. The rows above can no longer be seen. Of course, I can scroll down and this row is frozen, but I can't go up. So this is an issue you need to keep in mind. I will open the Freeze Panes button and select Unfreeze Panes. Now I can scroll up and freeze again if I want. So keep in mind that freezing the first row means the first row that is visible at that moment. Similarly, freezing works for the first column as well. Again, the logic is that the first column from the left that appears will be frozen. The first row from the left that is visible will be frozen. And since column A is the first of the left currently visible, column A will be frozen. With this process, I will open the Freeze Panes button and click on Freeze First Column. Notice that a vertical line is now visible, indicating that the first column has been frozen. I will move to the right with the scroll bar and see that the first column remains fixed while the other columns are scrolling. Unfreezing is done in the same way. From the Freeze Panes button, I will click Unfreeze Panes, and the freeze now is gone. Besides the first row and the first column, I can perform a more complex freeze. For example, I want to freeze the first 3 rows. To do this, I will select the 4th row. It's as if I'm saying that I want to freeze everything above this point. Not the 4th row, but all the rows above it. So after selecting the 4th row, I will open the Freeze Panes button again, and then I will click on Freeze Panes this time. Now notice that below the 3rd row there is this line indicating that the freeze has been set here. I will scroll down with the mouse wheel, and the first 3 rows are frozen. To remove the freeze, the process is the same. From the Freeze Panes button, I will click Unfreeze Panes. The same applies to columns. If I select column D, I will freeze the columns to the left of it, that is A, B, and C. I will select column D, and from the Freeze Panes button, I will click Freeze Panes. Notice again the line indicating that a freeze has been set here. I will go to the horizontal scroll bar and move to the right, so you can see that the first 3 columns are indeed frozen. I can also combine rows and columns to be frozen. That's the last thing, so bear with me with this. From the Freeze Panes button, I will click Unfreeze Panes, and now I will click on cell B2 to select it. When I have just one cell selected, it's as if I'm saying that I want all the rows above and all the columns to the left to be frozen. That means for cell B2, the first column and the first row. So I will open the Freeze Panes tool and choose Freeze Panes. And now you see that there are 2 lines indicating the freeze. I will scroll down, and the first row you see that it is frozen. I will go to the horizontal scroll bar and move to the right, scroll to the right, and the first column is frozen. Let's see another example. From the Freeze Panes button, I will click Unfreeze Panes to remove the current freeze. And this time I will select cell D3. I will click the Freeze Panes button again and click on Freeze Panes. As expected, the first 2 rows and the first 3 columns are frozen. That is every column to the left of the selected cell and every row above the selected cell. What you should remember from this lesson: from the View tab you can do everything I showed you. In the Zoom palette there are buttons for adjusting the zoom, but you can also set the zoom from the controls at the bottom right corner here in Excel. Regarding freeze, in the window palette there is the freeze panes button. By clicking it, you see your